Good evening, YouTube. You guys are now watching another segment of the TheCaliEffect. Today, we're going to be going over the Spellbook deck profile. It's a couple of changes that I've done, different from what you guys seen on Devpro, but it was all just to make the deck a little more consistent, to make it better, and give it a little more power than what it had. If you guys would like to see 3 amazing games of me playing Spellbooks, just to show you guys a little gist of what the deck can do, then the playlist or the saga, the series, whatever you guys want to call it, will definitely be down below. I'm going to go over a quick breakthrough through the deck because there's not really much to talk about. 3 Little Boy, the Stratos of the deck. I find myself setting him a little more often than before because I never used to set him, but ultimately he's going to get you to Spellbooks, and he's searchable through Spellbook as secrets, sells Spellbook through Masters when you copy secrets. Just a really good card. 3 copies of Kaiku. Now, this is what gives us the matchup against Mermels, against Lightsworn, against Boojins. Kaiku, the Ghost Destroyer, essentially locks the opponent out of the graveyard, prevents them from banishing cards to special summon their title. It prevents them from banishing any of the Boojins to protect their monsters. It prevents them from summoning Judgment Dragon because they won't have enough names. BLS, BLS, Chaos Sorcerer, it completely stops them from summoning cards like that. It stops Gimmick Puppets. It stops just so many small things, which makes this card extremely credible. It's a spellcaster, 1800 attack, shouldn't be running anything less than 3 in this build. 2 copies was Effect Veiler because Monster Effect Negation is pretty good. Actually, Kaiku even stops Fire Fist matchups. It locks them out of Spirit because it removes their targets. It's just a really good card. But Effect Veiler helps us with the Fire Fist matchup, prevents them from using Gorilla, Bear, Spirit, all that other stuff, and just a really good card. Keep in mind that it is a spellcaster, so if you don't have any spellcasters in graveyard and so happen to have Spellbook and Tower, you can negate one of their card effects and be able to activate Tower. Next is 2 copies of High Priestess of Prophecy. I was actually running 3 copies of Madolche Mageline. And with that, I didn't have enough power. With Madolche Mageline, you get consistency. You get the ability to always have a spellcaster monster, quote unquote, in your hand and on the field. But with High Priestess of Prophecy, it gives you a lot of, it gives you a really good matchup against Rogue because the opponent Rogue decks is really hard to side against in Prophecy, and it gives you a 2500 beater that destroys almost anything on the field. High Priestess of Prophecy is really good, but if you guys want to, I would take out 2 copies of High Priestess of Prophecy and the Justice of Prophecy back to the Mageline build because the Mageline adds, like I said, more consistency, always a spellcaster, rank 4 plays, and just it even confuses the opponent when you start off with when you open up with Mageline and some back row, they immediately think you're playing with Dolces. You follow up with Spellbook of Power, Spellbook of Tower, Spellbook of Secrets, Masters, and Fate, and they don't know what to do. So it's just a really good card. Next, for Spellbooks, we're going to be playing 3 Secrets, 2 Eternity, 2 Crescent, 2 Masters, 2 Towers, 2 Wisdoms, 1 Fate, 1 Power, 1 Life. Now, in the Madolche, if I were to take out High Priestess and put in the Madolches, I'd take out Life and put in another Power. But the big card I want to talk about is Spellbook of Masters. Ideally, I want to be able to try to fit 3 in here because Spellbook of Masters tutors a lot of the cards in our deck. At any given time, if you have Spellbook of Masters and Spellbook of Secrets in the graveyard, more than likely you should put the Masters back to the deck and keep the Secrets in the graveyard, just because Masters can manipulate so many ways to manipulate that Spellbook of Secrets in the graveyard. You can banish it and return it to your hand with Eternity. You can copy it for your another Masters, and then 3 copies of Masters just gives you what you need to be able to search any of your good cards or be able to activate any of your spellbooks in graveyard. I really like Masters in this deck, so I will be trying to find a way to fit 3. Next, for normal spells, is 2 copies of Duality in the Book of Moon. I don't run Dark Hole just because it doesn't help in this deck. Being able to Dark Hole the whole field and typically lose one of your only spellcasters on board is just not good. I went to trying to side it, but it really didn't work out that good either. The only problem with sideboard that I would really want to Dark Hole is Thunder King Ryo, and I'm pretty sure I have enough outs to it already. Next, for traps, excuse me, that was a little mixed up. 3 copies of Fiendish Chain, regular effect monster negation. If all else fails, you can just negate the monsters, prevent the monster from attacking. Solemn Warning, 2 Deprison, two Mirror Force, Bottomless, and Compulse. That's basically going to sum up the main board. Not much else to talk about when you get into the traps. If you run a trap heavy deck like in Prophecies, you're more successful. Mainly the reason why we're running 10 traps in here is because Spellbook of Fate at 1, which means we cannot always have Spellbook of Fate. If Fate was to come down to 2 or 3, then we'd probably be running this deck completely different. Next, on to the sideboard. It's so hard to side for this deck against other decks just because you don't want to ruin the flow or the tempo, but I tried to do it accordingly just to give us the biggest advantage. We're going to be running 3 copies of Max C. Now, what Max C does is it allows us to gain all of our consistency back. It allows us to get all of our combos. And typically when an opponent goes off under Max C and gives us at least 2 cards, that's 2 cards that we really need. Drawing is extremely important in this deck, and Max C just really helps us going off. 2 copies of Breaker. Breaker is pretty underrated as a spellcaster. At the very worst, it's an answer to Thunder King Ryo. You summon it, it's 1900, you can run into it, or you can pop a back row, power it, and run over to Thunder King Ryo. Breaker is really good for getting rid of those threats such as Curse Seal, just back row, closed forest, all that other stuff that is just really annoying. Breaker gets over it. A lot of Bujin players like to run Royal Decree, and then Breaker just says, hi, I'm going to get over you. That's the biggest reason why I'm choosing this over Twister or Dust Tornado, just because it's a spellcaster monster with a nice body on him. 3 copies of Mystical Space Typhoon for obvious reasons. I don't mainboard them, I sideboard them. I haven't found a need to mainboard them, and if I were, I'd probably just take out the dualities for 2. It hasn't been needed just because of Spellbook of Wisdom, and then we have Spellbook of Fate to follow up for any other plays. Really good against Fire Fist, though. 2 copies of System of Down, because machines are annoying. The machine matchup could get out of hand, and if you Max C them, draw into the System of Down, you're straight. But other than that, that's why we do have excuse me, System of Down in our main board or sideboard. Next, 2 copies of Light Imprisoning Mirror for the Fire Fist, Bujin, Artifact, whatever matchup, anything light, or not Fire Fist, I'm sorry, the Bujin, Artifact, Light Sworn matchup, whatever gives us a problem. Light Imprisoning Mirror can just continuously shuts down them, and the only thing that we have that would stop us is High Priestess of Prophecy. But in most of the decks that I would just said, I would be siding out High Priestess of Prophecy anyways. Soul Drain, Defissure, and Mind Crush. Now I wanted to try to fit another way, fit another Mind Crush in here, because Mind Crush is just so good at disrupting the opponent's plays via Mermail, Fire Fist, or any of that other stuff. Mind Crush has a special spot for this deck. It's a really good card. DeFi locks the Mermail players out, and as well as Soul Drain. Now on to the extra deck. I'm not even going to lie, you guys can play extra deck really however the hell you want to, just because this deck is not really extra deck reliant at all. So I'm going to be running Leo, because there's times where I have made them with High Priestess of Prophecy, Little Boy, and Effect Veiler, or High Priestess of Prophecy, Special Summon through Spellbook of Life and Effect Veiler, and from what you can see, Leo wins games. Leo just outright, single-handedly wins games, and you have the space, so why not? Stardust Dragon, Crimson Blader, Armadas. These are monsters you probably would never summon, but when you do summon them, you'll need them. Belmung, Mistburg Colossus. For Exceed, Steelstorm Roach, 101, Dweller, Direwolf. And then I'd like to talk about Down Syndrome Magician. Just a really good card. 2 little boys make a rank 2 monster, and then I can just go into Down Syndrome Magician if it's not a spellcaster monster that I decided to go into. She makes Spellbook of Fate live, she makes Spellbook of Power live, she makes all of our Spellbook cards live. She's a spellcaster, she's typically 2700 when we overlay for her, so she's not really a bad card. She's actually a really good choice in here. Die Phoenix, because it's really good. Shining Elf, a heavy hitter for this deck. I think it's so underrated in this deck. And then 1 copy of Armored Kappa, because it's Armored Kappa. Thank you guys for watching another segment of the Cali Effect. Please like. Oh, actually, sorry. Somebody did ask, how do you play Spellbooks? Now, Spellbooks are a deck that it requires time. It requires patience, and it requires the ability to read. Your basic setup plays is if you have any of these cards, maybe let's say we have Little Boy, and then we have Spellbook of Crescent. We would activate Crescent first. Our main cards to get would be Masters, Tower, Secrets. It doesn't matter out of any of these cards that we get. So let's say we got the Masters, which would be relatively bad. We summon the Little Boy and we search the Secrets. Secrets would give us the Tower. Masters would copy the Tower, or copy the Secrets by revealing Tower, add us the Fate. And so basically now we started off with 3 spellbooks in the graveyard, Tower on the field, and Fate face down. We banish 3 to banish one of your opponent's cards, and we banish 2 to flip Little Boy face down when they declare an attack. Let's say it's, because we'll never use that one and that one. He flip face up. His effect will probably get us Eternity because it's a smarter move. And then he would go to the graveyard. We draw for our normal draw, then Tower effect will put Fate to the bottom, draw an extra card, Eternity for secrets, and then you could just keep on cycling over. This is just basically how the deck plays. There's no specific combo. There's ways to make your monster double or almost double its attack, pretty much invincible, but if you read your spellbooks, it's not that hard to do. It's not really insanely combo type deck. It's a deck that you definitely just have to play. Another big play that I actually like doing is going into Shining Elf, because Shining Elf is highly underrated. It wins games just because it's a spellcaster and it's easily used. You can use it with Masters on the field. You can use it on Power. You can do so many other things. And then when it's all used up, I just tend to go overlay it for Down Syndrome Magician just because it's just a really good card. With that being said, like I said, if you really want to see how the deck genuinely works, there's a playlist below of the sagas. I hope you guys watch it and enjoy it. Thank you guys for watching another segment of the Cali Effect. Please like, comment, subscribe, but most of all, enjoy.